Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. Your friends can download it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. On today's show, we are going to talk about the latest food price reports that is showing Canadians will be paying a lot more for groceries. Also, the Prime Minister appears to continue to be in conflict with Brookfield Access. To talk about that and so much more, we are bringing on Eric Melillo, the Member of Parliament for Kenora-Kiiwetinoong. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Apparently, it's been a minute since you've been on the show.
Yeah, I think like 5 or 6 years maybe. I was starting to think you didn't like me.
I apologize. And you know what? Looking back, it actually gets worse because we were only audio at the time. We didn't have video on this podcast. That's how long ago it was. After the 2019 election, you and Raquel Dancho were the guests talking about the youth and how the youth, according to liberals, and so they thought they had the youth locked down. They had that vote locked down. Turns out you weren't unicorns after all. It actually grew into a bigger movement.
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing is more and more young Canadians looking to the Conservative Party. With the cost of living, whether it's groceries, gas, housing, youth have given up completely on their dream of home ownership. It's no longer a goal that they're looking to as something attainable, but just a faraway dream.
Many can't afford groceries. Many aren't even thinking about home ownership. There are a whole slew of problems in front of young people, jobs, the economy, and this has come to the point. So the Conservative Party has actually expanded its group of voter base, that being young people.
Absolutely, and we see that in MPs that we've elected as well, especially in this last election. Suckman Gill out in the Lower Mainland in BC. We have Jonathan Rowe in Newfoundland, and many others that are joining the fold. We see it in the voter coalition as well. I think young people that are coming to looking at our party. You mentioned the cost of living, the unemployment. Youth unemployment is at the highest point it's been since 2010 if you take out the COVID pandemic. So I think a lot of young people aren't able to find jobs. They're struggling with the cost of living. They've given up, to your point, completely on the dream of home ownership. It's not even something that is thought of as an attainable goal. It's just this sort of faraway dream that, although their parents and grandparents had it, it just doesn't seem like it's reality in Canada today after what's now 10 years of Liberal government.
And the latest job report shows a bump in the number of part-time jobs, which any job is good, but at the same time, the number of full-time jobs, that's not where the growth was. And when you look at the sectors that did experience some bumps, it was all sectors that rely on government funding, right? Social programs, there was some defense spending that went into it, but it isn't being driven by private sector investment, which is the key to growing the economy in a way that's sustainable in the long term.
Absolutely. Full-time employment is down. To me, that's the headline of the latest job numbers. And at the end of the day, even those with a part-time or in some cases full-time job, many Canadians with jobs are still going to the food bank. They're still struggling to get by. I think that's why we're seeing 2 million Canadians in a single month using the food bank. Record numbers. Again, this is unheard of in Canada, but this is just the reality of the Liberal economic plan at work.
Yeah, it really is to think that 2 million Canadians, like numbers that we never thought were possible before. And unfortunately, it's not getting much better because the latest food price report, and I'll get this right here. So next year, in 2026, Canadians are on average going to spend $1,000 more next year on groceries than they are this year. And that's on top of last year, 2024, 2023, where we've just seen increase after increase after increase to the point now, the annual cost for a family of 4 on groceries, $17,571.79. Unreal.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It really is. And you say unbelievable, but if you go to the grocery store, you see it every single day. And I think it's a lot of essential staple items, things like beef, meat, coffee. I know is one that's
coffee is number one actually for the jump. Yep.
So a lot of things that Canadians are consuming or wanting to consume every single day, and it's to the point where when the Liberals first took office, I think that we had a very good economic situation, and as time went on, as taxes have gone up, as big government programs have continued to drive up the cost of living, people started to cut back on some of the the vacations and the
Yep.
concerts and some of those fun things. And then now we're seeing cutbacks to children's activities and some of the more useful things. And it's at the point now that many Canadians are just, again, struggling with the necessities. They're not even thinking about vacation. They're just thinking about putting food on the table. And that's how much things have changed for the worse in 10 years. It's completely unbelievable.
Yeah, when you think about in 2019, prior to the pandemic, like the effects of the Trudeau policies were taking some impact with our resource sector and other, but the economy was still managing to get by. The pandemic hit, of course. We know what happened. The government spent like crazy. Inflation's out of control. And now we're into the spot now where government spending continues, about $80 billion in the hole this year.
Right.
No foreseeable end to that. At the same time, we have these agreements being signed with Alberta and the federal government to try to get a pipeline, but it's all loaded on the one side where there are barriers on the British Columbia side, unfortunately, with David Eby, the premier there, saying no. So will this nation-building project ever get a shovel in the ground? I hope so. I really do. I really hope it does.
You and I both.
But the way the Carney Liberals are structuring this deal, there are many factors that would stop it.
Absolutely. It seems like Prime Minister Carney is trying to say some of the right things, but position this for failure.
Yeah.
I don't understand any other logic as to what he's doing. I think it makes sense. A lot of his caucus is already out saying that this paper they signed isn't actually going to get any of a pipeline built. So, the Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, he ran on this election that he was the man with the plan to get all these big projects built, get our economy back on track. To your point, Jamie, what we're seeing is putting up barriers to getting those projects built, and I think we're seeing not just a continuation of Trudeau's economic plan, but doubling down on it. I think it's $90 billion in new spending was announced in this budget after the Prime Minister promised that spending would go down. He promised that Canadians can judge him by the prices at the grocery stores. Right?
Yep. Prices are going up.
And prices
way
are going up. But by every metric he's setting for himself, he's missing.
Yes.
And that's what the Prime Minister is going to have to explain to Canadians, why he's setting all of these standards, missing every single one of them as prices continue to skyrocket. The inflationary industrial carbon tax still in place.
Still there.
Still there.
By relatively the same amount that was taken off during the consumer carbon price.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So interesting that for show you remove the carbon tax at the retail level, but behind the scenes where people don't see it, it's still being added.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a hidden tax. All Canadians are paying it, and especially on things like food. It's hitting the farmers. It's hitting the transportation. It's hitting the grocery store itself, and that's being passed down. And now Canadians don't see it. The Prime Minister's saying the right things, but in reality, what he's actually doing is continuing and doubling down on that same disastrous Liberal record, driving up more inflationary spending, adding to the cost of living, and of course, when you take the housing challenges and couple that with the grocery prices, it's one cost of living crisis that all Canadians are facing.
Yeah, no rebate on this carbon tax, unfortunately. Right. So it's really something. But you're right. Housing, people can't afford to buy, builders can't afford to build. It's a weird conundrum, the fact that we have a housing crisis all across the country right now. Right. And we can't seem to get anything built because the cost of materials, the cost of everything is way more than what people can afford because wages aren't growing at that same pace. And we see it around your area. Sault Ste. Marie, we just had a very sad announcement just before Christmas. Algoma Steel laying off 1,000 workers. We just had a few hundred more in Sudbury. Absolutely stunning for a community of those sizes that rely on mining and the steel industry.
Absolutely.
It's heartbreaking.
That's right. I mean, mining, steel, I had forestry to that mix as well.
Yeah, forestry.
We saw an announcement with Cat Paper. I know that they had a bit of support, but that's running out. That was temporary support. Ear Falls sawmill in my district, and I know, of course, in British Columbia and in other areas as well. Workers across the country are they're getting hit from all sides now, right? They've lost their job. The food prices are going up. They're struggling to find housing. All of these things are just layering on top of each other, making this economic situation that much more catastrophic for Canadians.
So even with this announcement with Alberta and Canada, I want to get back to that just quickly, and it leads us into our next topic. Prior to the election, Mark Carney's election, he was always on the side of keep it in the ground.
That's right.
But the company he was chair of, Brookfield Asset Management, was investing in oil development in other parts of the country, around the UAE and others. So they were holding off development in Canada, stifling our economic growth, stifling jobs, opportunity and wealth created at home here, investing over in other jurisdictions, creating those jobs, those opportunities, all that wealth. And he moved his head office from Canada to New York City. Right. Unbelievable. Just goes to show you. So now we have Canada's top public servant and a few other Brookfield executives appearing at the Ethics Committee to kind of take a dive in and a deeper look at the conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest that the Prime Minister has with his stock shares and stock options in Brookfield. And this was something that kind of continues to bubble, because when you looked at the disclosure of the Prime Minister, he still had areas that raised a lot of questions for a lot of people. And let's cue up cut one here. We have the Ethics Committee going on, looking at Brookfield. This is Michael Cooper, a colleague from Alberta, questioning officials here to actually find out how deep this goes and what is actually at stake here. Is the decisions being made by the government still benefiting the Prime Minister in a backhanded kind of way? So let's play cut one.
Mr. Carney's ethics disclosure states that he is entitled to carried interest payments, aka future bonus pay, in respect of the performance of Brookfield's global transition funds. But what is missing from Mr. Carney's disclosure are the holdings in this fund, the companies that this fund is invested in. Would you agree that this is a significant and material omission from the standpoint of knowing the extent of Mr. Carney's conflicts of interest?
Yes, and unfortunately, though, the disclosure rules allow for secret investments, essentially. The details are not provided.
And by keeping these future shares, these options, the performance pay, it could potentially be worth tens of millions of dollars. So the allegation and what they're trying to achieve here at the Ethics Committee is these decisions that Mark Carney is making, these decisions his government is making, could actually make him richer.
Absolutely, and to give more context to what Mr. Cooper was asking about there are, I believe it's about 1,900 companies owned by Brookfield that are not included in the Prime Minister's declaration. So that's not being vetted, it's not being looked at. Those are just companies that exist so that as long as Brookfield is doing well, the Prime Minister will do well and gain from that. And you already mentioned the hypocrisy where Mr. Carney is very fine to support pipelines and I believe even investments in coal and other,
coal too,
sources outside of Canada. But he's his entire career, he's done everything he can to keep our resources in the ground and push jobs out of Canada. So I think it raises a lot of questions about who the Prime Minister is working for. Is Mark Carney standing up for Canadians, or is he standing up for Brookfield? Considering 1,900 companies, that's a sizable amount. That's I think that's unfathomable to the average Canadian to have that many being invested in that many companies and having that perhaps impact Mr. Carney's decisions.
Absolutely. Let's continue the questioning here in the Ethics Committee. Cue up cut two. Michael Barrett's up here, the ethics critic. Play cut two.
Increases in Brookfield's performance increases the value of the instruments that Mark Carney still holds. So he makes more when Brookfield does better. Yes?
In relation to the stock options and deferred share units, yes, as the value of Brookfield increases, the value of those instruments increase. There are also carried interest entitlements that relate more specifically to funds that we manage.
So I think what this is kind of pointing out is that the ethics screen that is supposedly in place, it's not really catching what it's supposed to. It's not actually putting up the walls, the barriers, that prevent these things from continuing to happen. The potential that decisions made by the Prime Minister and this Liberal government could, in fact, turn around and benefit those same people after they're done politics.
Absolutely. The vast majority of what the Prime Minister owns through Brookfield is falling through the cracks of that screen. So you hit the nail right on the head. And, let's remind Canadians that this is the Liberal government that has the most ethics violations of any other government in Canadian history. They're the most, objectively, the most unethical government by that standard. So it raises a lot of concerns, I know, for myself and for folks I talk to back in Northern Ontario, and I'm sure right across the country. And again, at a time when Canadians are struggling just to put food on the table, we have Prime Minister and Mark Carney, who's clearly well invested and well connected with Brookfield, and I think has a history of hypocrisy in his decisions that make a lot of people concerned that he's going to be making decisions with the interests of Brookfield in mind, not in the interests of Canadians.
Exactly why I think Conservatives prefer smaller government. So the market makes decisions, not the government trying to make investments in companies or pathways they want the public to take, right? You should be maximizing your freedom, not controlling the citizens' behavior. And I think for those coming on the other side, from the lobbyists and lawyers, it's easier to lobby government, right? Because you don't necessarily have to make the product work. Sometimes it does, you get lucky, but the innovation doesn't come at a rapid pace. The spark of innovation is in the marketplace, is in customers deciding what works best for them. So for the companies, lobby a few bureaucrats and politicians, get some money handed your way, a lot easier than actually trying to make a product and compete in the market space and hustle for the dollars of the consumer, right? There's lots of consumers out there, a little bit in government.
Yeah, and this is what a big government liberal approach, that's what it's all about, is creating that that system that benefits the companies, the well-connected, all those insiders. You and I both know, of course, that Conservatives as a free market party, we have that plan that will lower taxes, lower regulations, allow the country to have a smaller government and bigger citizens that can go out and achieve more in that free market. It's a situation that will prevent situations like we're seeing here with major conflicts of interest with Mark Carney.
And it takes away the crony capitalism, right? Let the market decide. Let individuals decide. And the proof is in the pudding, right? Look at nobody tries to break into a communist or socialist country, right? They're all trying to break out. That should tell you something. Yes. So why we try to replicate policies in some way over time to accelerate that so that people are questioning what the heck Canada is doing in terms of their policy. But every industry that government takes over, it gives you a singular choice, one or two questions. Like we talked about this many times in the show. Airlines, right? In Canada, there's only a couple, maybe three. Telecoms, only a few, right? Like grocery stores, they control them all. There's three big players that control them all. There is very little competition, and those are sectors that people complain about the most. You want to look at where the government has least control, check out the music industry, right? We have every kind of music anyone could probably listen to, anything. And probably ones that we haven't heard of because you never know what the spark of innovation creates. The beer industry, right? There's a million different tastes for everyone out there. When the government leaves things alone, the market, the innovators, the opportunities come with that. But if the government has its thumb on the industry, you get very little competition. Your service goes down, and the price, unfortunately, is not where it should be, which is the lowest possible price.
Yeah, that's what we need to get back to, Canada, where we have those options. We have the low price, that competition. I think when you look at what the government's involved in and not involved in, something comes to mind is the fact that this Liberal government is always seems concerned about how much money they can spend. Well, they said, look at us, we care so much, we spent all this money. Well, that's great, but what did that money actually achieve? And I think we've seen time and time again in different Auditor General reports, Parliamentary Budget Officer, just even conversations with everyday Canadians, you can see that the money's not achieving what it's intended to. If all of these affordability measures they brought forward were going to do something, we wouldn't have an affordability crisis as we do
That's a
right
very
now
good point.
across Canada. So everything that this Liberal government sticks its hands in seems to get worse.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part. Now we're paying every single cent the federal government collects in GST revenue goes for interest on our debt. So there's no benefit. So even when you buy something, whatever, and you're seeing that tax taken off, you're seeing how much you paid, that's going on interest. That's not building another hospital. That's not fixing the roads. That's not, helping the housing situation. None of it. Absolutely incredible.
So I was going to say that's actually an amount that's more than the federal government is spending on healthcare. So if you put
that
that
too.
in perspective, giving more money to bondholders than spending on healthcare in our country, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to grasp this, the fact that we got to this point. We're way over time. I apologize.
Okay.
We got to get to question period, so I'm very sorry. We went way over. I didn't even notice that. The guests, you may not remember, but the guests always get the last word.
Okay.
So close it out.
Well, just appreciate the opportunity to be back and share this conversation with you. I think, above all, my takeaway is this cost of living crisis, groceries going up, housing going up, Canadians struggling, all the while Mark Carney is working for his Brookfield insiders. I think that is a major concern that I know I have and our Conservative team has, and that's why we're going to keep fighting for Canadians to expose these truths.
Eric, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that. Thanks for coming on. I promise next time we won't wait 6 years till the next time.
I'll hold you to it.
I'll try to remember that. So thank you very much. Eric Melillo, the Member of Parliament for Kenora, Keewaydin. Thank you for your time. Thank you for yours as well. Don't forget, every single Tuesday we'll have new content for you. And that's at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And just before Christmas, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Actually, right before New Year's. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We look back at 2025, the year that was, pick out a few good things and not so good things. So you want to tune in for that. That's on just before New Year's Eve. That's the Tuesday. So please tell your friends. They can download this program and future ones on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. You name it, it is out there. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less governments, more freedom. That's the blueprint.